Eman has his own passion product that he sells on Amazon, and we're going to break down exactly how much it costs him to get started selling on Amazon. Then we're going to talk about how much he actually made in his first year selling on Amazon, including the revenue, the cost of the product, all the different Amazon FBA fees, and his profit. And at the end of this video, we're going to talk about the biggest mistake that he made on Amazon. And this is one of the most common mistakes almost all new Amazon sellers make. So please stay till the end, because by watching till the end, you could save $12,000. That's how much that mistake cost him. So let's get started with how much it costs you to start selling on Amazon.
Again, this is my product here, Deadstock Los Angeles, with a shoe cleaning kit. As far as getting started, there's a bunch of startup costs. And the first one I can really think of is probably the packaging and the design, right? So in order to go ahead and make this design, everything like that, I went to Fiverr, spent $70.
Not bad. That's pretty cheap. And the design came out. Was that your first iteration?
It was.
That's really good. So then what's your next startup cost?
So again, next startup cost is basically finding out if this product would even sell, right? So I had to go ahead and use software and tools. The main one that I went ahead and used was Jungle Scout, right? And the funny thing about this one is that when I first bought Jungle Scout, it was $129 to get the extension to see if the demand and the supply makes sense. The very first keyword I typed into Amazon was shoe cleaner, just because that's the first thing that popped into my head as far as what I wanted to sell.
Something that you were passionate about, something you understood.
Exactly. So when I saw that 7 opportunity score, which is good demand, basically good demand, and I'll be able to make enough money, I dove in.
That's awesome. And that's something really important to point out is a lot of people just look at the numbers. They're like, oh, it looks good, but they don't have any kind of emotional. Or other people, they just have the passion for the product, but they don't actually look at the numbers. And Eman did both. And that's the key to being a successful entrepreneur, is having that passion, that emotional side, but also having that logical and making sure the numbers make sense. So what was the next startup cost?
So after that, after going ahead and contacting a bunch of manufacturers, I wanted to go ahead and get samples. And I spent roughly around $60 on going ahead and getting samples to make sure the product actually does what it's supposed to do.
And was that the cost to get it shipped over from China, or was that just for the product itself?
Total. So basically the brush, the solution, and the microfiber towel, including shipping. So $60 all in on actual samples.
And that's really important. You want to get a sample of your product before you end up ordering thousands and thousands of dollars with. So what was the next cost, the next step in getting your product started?
UPC codes. And UPC codes are like, people have different opinions and different strategies and different, advice as far as when it comes to UPC codes. And what I did, I spent $15 to get 10 UPC codes. And you might be thinking, that's so cheap. Please tell me where can I find $10 UPC codes? Well, I use Speedy Barcodes, and I do not whatsoever recommend going ahead and taking this route. And the reason for that is because Amazon has been cracking down on sellers not using authentic UPC codes. And the only way to actually get authentic UPC codes is by going to GS1.
But they're expensive. It's like $250 for 10 UP, and that keeps a lot of beginner sellers out. So, I don't recommend using Speedy Barcodes, but if you're really tight on cash, probably avoid it. Avoid it. So what was the next startup? I guess the next thing is the actual production run. How much did you spend on your entire first production run?
So I want to say I spent roughly around $5,000 going ahead and producing 1,500 units of my first order. So.
And something to keep in mind, I know we talked about, is the lower amount of units that you produce, the higher your per cost of the unit's going to be. So I'm sure if you would have ordered 10,000 units, you would have got the per unit cost a little bit lower. So 1,500 units at around $5,000. And then another thing that a lot of people don't consider is you got to get those products shipped over. So I'm assuming you made them in China, right?
I made them in China, correct.
And then how much was it to get it shipped over from China?
Well, if you're really impatient like I was, I went ahead and air shipped all my 1,500 units. And it's so dang expensive to air ship everything, right?
Air shipping's super expensive.
So I spent right around $3,000 air shipping all of those units. Again, don't recommend it. Sea shipping every single time. Unless some circumstances.
You're going to save a lot of money with sea shipping. If you're doing maybe a really small production run, you're doing 200, or you're in a rush to get it in by the holiday season. Sometimes air shipping makes sense, but sea shipping whenever possible. So another thing that not a lot of people consider is when you actually start to sell on Amazon, you don't want to get the products and take a photo yourself. You should pay for professional photography. And how much did that cost you?
So product photography cost me right around $120 total, which I think was a steal, right? The pictures look top notch. I didn't have to deal with it myself. And obviously those same pictures I still have up on my Amazon page. So $120 is well worth it.
Yeah, and this is something to keep in mind is when people are buying things on Amazon, they can't hold the product in their hand. All they have to go on is that image. So you better have really high quality images, especially your main image, because people aren't going to even click on your listing unless your main image is really good. So in total, how much did it cost you to get started with your Amazon business?
So total, I was all in $8,000. And again, $8,000 was a lot of money when I first got started, just because I didn't know if it was going to be successful or not, right?
And I know a lot of people get really freaked out when they're like $8,000. But something I like to tell people is, look, for the price of a pretty mediocre used car, you're about to see how much he was able to do in his first year in sales. And so let's break that down. In your first year in sales, how much revenue did you do in total?
So revenue, right around $125,000 in revenue.
That's freaking great. So he spent $8,000 to start and he did $125,000 in revenue. But as you know, and I know, and he knows, revenue is not profit. So let's break down like what were all your costs.
So product costs, I spent right around $20,000.
Yeah, that's not bad. So the next fee that a lot of people don't think about is the Amazon selling fee. And that's the flat 15% fee just to sell on the Amazon platform. How much did you spend for that fee?
So that fee was right around $17,000.
And there's also the Amazon FBA fee, which is the pick and pack fee. It's how much it costs every time that Amazon picks your product from the warehouse and ships it out to the customer. They charge you a fee for that. And how much did you spend for that fee?
That's right around $25,000.
And then there's a bunch of other random Amazon fees. And in total, these are things like storage fees, receiving fees, just little rinky-dink things. How much did you spend for those fees?
I would want to guess right around $12,000 on all that.
Yeah, so keep all that in mind. And even after all those fees, you don't have to do this, but something that I highly recommend doing is Amazon PPC. And in your first year, how much do you spend for Amazon PPC?
Yeah, so PPC itself was right around $5,000.
And remember, this is advertising for your product because when you put your product on Amazon, if you do a really good launch strategy and you do everything right, you can sell really well. But having a little bit of PPC is probably one of the best ways you can spend your money as far as advertising. So in total, in your first year, how much money did you make in profit?
So profit after all expenses, right around $48,000.
And this is what I'm saying, guys. For the cost of a used car, he was able to create 50,000, he created a job out of it. And that's super powerful. A lot of people get freaked out about the startup costs. And yeah, it can be expensive, but I think it's worth it. Now, let's go to your next year, because we got numbers for year 2. How much revenue did you do in your second year?
So basically, my second year, I did over $320,000 in revenue.
That is amazing. And this is another like principle of entrepreneurship is every year is going to almost grow, in my opinion, from my experience, exponentially. Like when I first quit my job, my corporate job, over 8 years, that first year out of quitting, I only made like $5,000. Like I made almost nothing. But then every year since then, it's pretty much doubled. And that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but after, it's like that compound interest type thing. And I think this is amazing. So let's break down the fees here. How much did it cost you to do for all your products for your second year?
Right around $60,000.
Cool. And then what about the Amazon selling fee?
Yeah, so that was right around $48,000.
And then there's the Amazon FBA pick and pack fee.
All these fees add up, right? $73,000 for that.
And then what about just like other, random things, other random FBA fees?
So after that, just random fees, right around $42,000.
And of course, as we mentioned before, there was PPC for a second year. How much was that?
That's around $17,000.
So in total for your second year selling on Amazon, how much profit?
Well, right after that, it's right around $70,000. But again, I'm scaling now, right? I'm coming out with different products. I'm spending more on PPC. I'm ranking better. So
he's reinvesting a lot of the money back into his business. He's trying out a lot of different things. And as we'll talk about in just a second here, now pay attention because we're gonna talk about the biggest mistakes that E-Man made in his first year of selling on Amazon. And this first mistake cost him over $12,000. So make sure to hit that like button because he's being really vulnerable and really honest. So let's go into the first mistake.
So the first mistake is about weight. And if you guys don't know, Amazon charges you an Amazon pick and pack fee based on the weight of your product. So if you have up to 1 pound, that's one price. If you have over a pound, it's a different price. This right here, this product was in the borderline between 1 pound and 2 pounds. And what ended up happening was that my supplier filled up my actual liquid on this one here, where it fell into the 2 pounds on Amazon, which meant for 1,500 units, I basically got charged an extra $1.20.
Yep. That's a really easy mistake to make. You want to really pay attention. And there's all these little small mistakes that can be made. So the next mistake let's get into, which is the most common mistake. Almost every single Amazon seller that I work with, almost all of my students that have launched on Amazon run into this, is running out of inventory and it costs you over $100,000. I'll have you break it down.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is ordering enough units. And sometimes when you're first starting out, you don't know that magic number, right? And what happened in my case was that I was spending so much money on PPC, I did SEO, and I was able to go ahead and rank for the biggest keyword in my niche, which was shoe cleaner. And I went from selling right around 20 units a day to selling 60 units a day basically overnight.
That's a really good thing, right? Like, yeah.
I mean, it seems like a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Except when you run out of stock, Amazon hates that.
Yep. Blacklisted. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what ended up happening to me, right? I spent a whole month out of stock. And when I finally got back into stock, I did everything I could to try and go ahead and get that shoe cleaner Amazon Choice badge.
So you went from basically 60 units a day down to 20 units a day in sales.
Yeah.
It's a really big hit. And if we break down the numbers there, you were making about $7 profit per unit. So you lost 40 sales times 7. It's like $400 in profit per day times 365 days because it's been a year now.
Yeah.
That's over $100,000 in lost sales.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that no matter what I try now, it's very hard to even get there again.
So make sure that you order enough inventory. Make sure that you don't ever run out of stock. It's one of the biggest mistakes I see people making. And in this video right here, we talk about the 3 things that we wish we would have known when we started Amazon. And it's over on Eman's channel. So click on that video. We'll see you in that video. And thanks for watching.